The historical allies are finally getting leveled, which is the second of three main components of the feature. The first being getting the allies, the second being the leveling, and the third being special skills, which we'll talk about later. The TLDR of this update is that you actually can level your allies now. Instead of being stuck at the level you got them, you can complete some endeavors, basically small tasks, each week to get scrolls that you can use to level the allies over time. It's not a revolutionary feature, but it at least makes the allies feel more complete. Diving a little bit deeper into those endeavors, a new building on the outskirts of your city has been added, the Heroic Taverne, which is where the tasks component of the allies can be accessed. When you open that up, you can see the available tasks to complete and their rewards. Currently, there are 6 categories of endeavors: fighting with attack boosts, fighting with defense boosts, paying with forge points, paying medals, completing negotiations, and lastly, one collective one where you have to complete other endeavors. Each endeavor can be completed 20 times and will reset each week. Completing these tasks will give you scrolls, which you can use to level up your allies. In the case of the normal endeavors, you get 10 common scrolls, each of which is worth 1000 XP. The collective task gives 100 scrolls and 5 fragments of the very first epic ally in the game, the Spartan Soldier. At the current rate, it will take 10 weeks of completing all the endeavors to complete the epic Spartan Soldier, and that might sound relatively easy. How hard can completing 40 fights be? Well, what you don't see from the start is that the endeavors get much harder as you complete more of them. The fights start against enemies with 0% army boosts, but on the 20th, you'll be facing enemies with 10,000% boosts. Forge points scale from 10 to 10,000 needing to be paid, which means if you want to max out the endeavor, you'll need to pay over 48,000 forge points each week. The medals scale from 1,000 to 1 million, meaning that's 4.8 million medals per week. For negotiations, each one has 10 goods to choose from, previous and current age, and 5 attempts to complete it. That makes the negotiations pretty easy. I only lost 1 out of 20, but they get expensive, starting at 1 good per selection, but scaling up to 589 goods. Worst case scenario, you're probably looking at around 50,000 goods per week to complete those. As you may guess, these difficult endeavors means that it may take a little bit of time to get that epic Spartan Soldier or max out your allies. Speaking of those allies, let's look at the new UI for the Hall of Legends. For each ally, the effects page will show you what the ally will give to the building you place it in, as well as the button to place it. Also, side note here, when you go to place that ally, there's now an icon on the buildings with rooms available that shows whether the room is empty or occupied. The effects page will even show the building that the ally is currently residing in once you place it. Though it would be nice to have something like the roadless building indicator to see exactly where that building is in your city. The level up page is where you will be able to do the leveling and convert scrolls into XP. The skills page is for an upcoming addition to allies, what will be part 3 of the feature. You can choose special skills that will make the allies more powerful, but beyond that, we don't really know much more. And lastly, you can read the biography on who the ally actually was and what they did. Of course, what you care about is probably the leveling of the allies. I mean, that's presumably why you clicked on this video. For 1 click per scroll, you can convert the scrolls into 1000 XP for a specific ally. Each level will take some amount of XP to reach. I'd highly recommend not clicking for each individual scroll and use the handy multiple scrolls button. It took me a lot longer to know this button was here than it should have. Anyways, I haven't tracked the exact increase yet, but the allies' boosts seem to increase by 1% each level, with all of them increasing at the same rate. Each ally has a maximum of 100 levels, and the cost scales based on rarity. Unfortunately, I don't have the full set of data yet, but based on my rough estimates, leveling a common ally from 1 to 100 will take over 6 million XP, an uncommon ally will take nearly 8 million XP, and a rare ally will take around 9.5 million XP. That sounds like quite a challenge, but it's not too bad. If you can complete all the endeavors weekly, which is difficult, you get 3 million XP in scrolls per week. That means you can take common allies to max level in a little over 2 weeks and rare allies in a little over 3. With events running about every 5 to 6 weeks, this means you will need to choose which allies you want to level over others. I think that overall this is a pretty nice series of changes that makes the allies feel more like an intentional feature, but I do wish they waited to implement the feature until we got the endeavors. It's been about 6 months since we got the first iteration on beta, and I'd prefer to have just not had allies for 6 months rather than the minimum viable product. Regardless, I'm glad that we actually are getting the full feature finally, save whatever those special skills are. I'm not sure whether to like or dislike the endeavors yet, though. I had been hoping that the endeavors would involve you doing tasks in other areas of the game, so complete 5 fights in Guild Battlegrounds, get 100 progress in Quantum Incursions, etc. However, I also kind of like how they've done it with keeping the fights and negotiations separate from features. While not every player will be able to complete all the endeavors each week, they give a place for you to get extra fights or negotiations for when mini challenges come around, which is definitely handy. This feature is not trying to do anything crazy and doesn't take too much time, both of which are good qualities in my book. The endeavors feel nicely balanced so that everyone can get a decent amount of XP, but people who want to level allies faster can push just that much harder to get a little more. There is some discussion over the balancing of the enemy armies or the goods costs, but I don't feel too strongly whether they stay the same or get changed. You don't need to complete all the endeavors to still level your allies quite quickly, so if you don't have the goods or army boosts to complete all the endeavors, you won't miss out on that much. Whatever you think, I hope you agree with me that it's the perfect opportunity to make the joke that this update will truly let you take the allies to the next level, and the level after that, and a few more times after that. Anyways, join me on Discord where you can sign up for the game news notifications for when this comes to live servers. Link is in the description, and as always, I'll see you all next time.